Welcome to this PayTrace webinar. I'm very excited to spotlight one of our newest partners, SunsoftERP. With me today is project manager for Sunsoft, Alex Juliano. Welcome, Alex.
Thank you. Hello, everyone.
Awesome to have you here, and really excited to finally kick off this partnership. We've actually been working together for a while now, but this is our first partner spotlight with you guys. So excited to see the solution, excited to learn a little bit more about how we can bring value together to our partners. So with that said, I do see a few new names here on the live recording. Um, just want to go over some quick housekeeping and a bit of an agenda for today's conversation. If you are newer to PayTrace webinars, what you can expect is about a 30 to 45-minute session spotlighting this partnership between PayTrace and Sunsoft ERP. We're going to learn a little bit more about this partnership and really how this came to be and what value this brings to our customers. From there, I'm going to hand over control of the conversation to Alex so he can show you exactly what Sunsoft does. We're going to get a bit of a hands-on experience into their tools and how it works. And then lastly, we'll get into some next steps. We'll get into some Q&A and how you can get in touch with our teams to take advantage of this solution. And then if you are watching the recorded version of this on YouTube, we're going to have some follow-up information in the description of this video. So with that said, Alex, I'd love to learn a little bit more about Sunsoft as a solution, maybe your kind of the company's overview and the history of Sunsoft.
Yeah, absolutely. So all of this started way back in 1993. I hate to say way back for that for some of the audience members here, but all of this started with my dad a few years before I was born, starting in software in the early 90s. His big thing was he wasn't satisfied with the software that he was originally reselling. So by the late 90s, he took it upon himself to build something better. And thus was the first iteration of what is now Sunsoft ERP. So all of this started before I was born, and now he's been nice enough to include his children in the next generation of Sunsoft ERP. So in the early 2010s, we started transitioning from a client server to a cloud offering.
Mm.
And between 2013 and 2016, experimented a lot between Oracle's cloud and AWS's cloud.
Mhm.
Ultimately, initially, we're on AWS, but we are transitioning to Oracle now that their cloud has been made a little bit better. But in 2016, we went full cloud offering and changed everything over to Sunsoft ERP as it is today.
Got it.
Now, the initial package was created for, as my father would have said, anybody who had more than $300,000 to spend. But that was software in the late 90s. He has since gone further and further into niches, specifically food equipment distribution
Mm.
up to this point. And we do still have other customers that are not in food equipment distribution, such as construction, or we have international ship repair, which repairs cruise ships and all sort of international freighters. And so it's a very robust system, and he's done a very good job at keeping it out in front of specific niches that really needed the help when it comes to technology. So now, as he's transitioning it to us, his children, it is about to take on a new face, and we are transitioning to the Oracle Cloud for yet a, I would say, the third offering in my lifetime, the next version of Sunsoft ERP. So it's
Mhm.
been a very exciting journey for us. I'm very
That's
excited to have the opportunity to show you guys what we have.
That's fantastic. I'm curious, Alex. So I get it, right? In kind of the early software days, early ERP days, prior to cloud and all that, right? It's kind of whoever needs an ERP, and you have money to spend, you're gonna be the best fit. I'm curious when it comes to Sunsoft specifically, especially when you work in the food, food service equipment, things like that, and even some of these other verticals. What are some of the needs that you're solving for those, and how did you kind of work your way into those markets?
Well, and I guess really the initial need started out with my dad reselling Alcy. It was just an accounting package. Nothing was combined together. So you'd have operations, but then you'd have accounting, and then you'd have the friction, the interdepartmental friction, because nothing was flowing automatically over to the next section. So ultimately, our biggest thing was a system-driven organization. to reduce the interdepartmental frictions between every department, from operations, sales, accounting, to your inventory managers, all the way up to the owner, to be able to just easily see all of his numbers at any given point.
Make
So it
sure.
really just started out with that need of combining everything into one.
Yep. Yep. I get it. It's funny. It's oftentimes I work with some of our clients and there's always these issues. The left hand's not talking to the right hand, or they're not talking to the foot, and it creates a lot of complications and complexities when it comes to managing, especially businesses as they scale. They need that solution to really, like you said, make sure that everybody's talking to one another. Uh,
Yes.
so as we get into kind of this next generation, right? You're taking over the reins of everything. Um, right? You've introduced PayTrace as a partnership, which we're extremely excited about. Can you tell us a little bit about what made sense between Sunsoft ERP and PayTrace to add value to your customers?
Yeah, absolutely. Ironically, it started initially with us adding value to ourselves because we use our own software, and we have, a monthly recurring subscription model for software as a service.
Hmm.
My entire time working with my father, we've never taken credit cards because we didn't want to broach trying to handle the charging of 3%,
Hmm.
or how do we do this without being, not compliant with PCI? Got to worry about that. So it's been a challenge this entire time. And my initial thought was I would love to be able to send the monthly bills to our customers in a way that they can just pay it with a credit card. So
Yep.
it actually just started with our own needs,
That's
interestingly
awesome.
enough. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's funny. You're not the first time that I've heard that, but I love that story. How you were a user of ours, and right. It sounds like it must have been a pretty good experience to actually now decide to partner this and bring this out to your clients.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's once we realized this kind of partnership could exist and that we could have all of our PCI compliance and all the minutia handled by somebody who specializes in it. I was super excited that you guys reached out to us a second time to be, hey, we see we see you guys are using some things. Do you want to partner up? Do you want to integrate the system so that you can have your customers use it? And I have to say, out of all the companies that approached us and all the offerings that I looked at after we started down this road, this was the clear choice.
I love it. That's a great testimonial, Alex, and I think it really makes sense with the types of people that we work with, right? Especially in really the B2B space. Um, you know, your clients rely on really great technology, really great service. They don't want to, right? Your needs are you're trying to make it easier for them to manage their business. And I think you nailed it on the head when it comes to payments. There's a lot of minutia, there's a lot of complications, there's
So
so
much.
much that goes into credit card processing and ACH processing that people aren't aware of. Uh,
Mhm.
so I love the fact that you're able to take the business operation side off of their plate. We're able to take the payment side off their plate and really create a lot of these efficiencies and workflows that are just going to make life so much more simpler to our
Yeah.
clients. So, I'm really excited to see this. I'm kind of a technology nerd. Alex, I'm going to go ahead and let you take over the reins if you want to show our audience a little bit about your guys' software.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me this screen share going here. And I will say, because it's an ERP that I mean can handle every type of business, it is kind of like drinking from a fire hose. So I
Yep.
apologize if this comes off rather rushed, but there's a lot to it.
This is the
So we'll
high
go
the
ahead
high
and
level demo.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So Sunsoft ERP, being an ERP system, we handle everything from GL to AP to AR. We have banking, we have project accounting for your design, build, or construction jobs. We have timesheet management if you're doing any sort of labor. We have inventory management, purchasing, order entry for your distribution, QES for quoting and estimating, as well as prospecting. We have point of sale. We have production for used equipment refurbishing or manufacturing. We have bill of materials specifically for manufacturing so that you can set up all of your subschedules and everything like that. And we have our service module for any sort of service calls that you need to perform. Now, a nice piece I do want to highlight here, it is also partly why we're here, which is PayTrace. We have our API module, which is all of our integrations. And you can see here we have PayLinks, which is, of course, our PayTrace integration, which allows you to send emails that have a link for the customer to pay their invoice via credit card. But we also have e-commerce integrations. So if you have a website, you could push your inventory to the website from our system, pull the orders down from your website to our system, just to make sure you really are just managing things in one spot. And then for any of the manufacturers that may or may not be watching, we also have standard EDI integrations. So we can do a standard 850, purchase orders, invoices, everything like that through EDI integrations with an SFTP if there's going to be any sort of third party integrations with other websites. So the first thing I want to start with is the actual setup of a customer so we can see inside of Sunsoft ERP how not invasive PayTrace is. It is almost unnoticeable once it's set up. You just get to operate, and that's one of my favorite things about it. So I'm going to pull up my customer here. I'm going to type my customer number. And at the contact level here, we have a section for pay links. Let me get the Zoom bar out of my way. And in here, we have the option to activate PayTrace per contact. So depending on who needs to actually receive the emails or text messages, because they can also send a text message with a link, which is very nice.
Mhm.
In this case, I just currently have it via email, but you select the contact that you want. And as soon as you have the contact configured, all you have to do is run the system normally. And when you invoice the customer, they get their link. You don't have to think about it any harder than just putting in the order and fulfilling the customer's needs. So with this one set up currently, this is what we're going to use for today's demo. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a simple order under our order module. And this is where any sort of pick, pack, and ship orders are going to come in, nothing like a major design build or multi-phase install. That's going to be done under our projects module. But I'm going to go ahead and type my customer number here, and it's going to go ahead and pull up all of the information. Now, one of the nice things about our system here is our order guide. So if a customer's been buying from you a lot, you can just click the order guide and see everything they've bought from you and allow you to reorder it for them. So if they wanted to ask about some wine glasses they got, I can pull up their order guide and just type wine and see which wine glasses they've ordered from us previously and find out exactly how many they need for the new order. So we're going to go ahead and get them 2 different sets of red wine glasses here. I can see the last time these were ordered was this year. So we're going to go ahead and give them 2 cases of this and 2 cases of this. And we're going to add those items to my order. Now, with an order, depending on whether you're collecting deposits or how large the order is, in this case, since we're under $500, I wouldn't be collecting a deposit. But we do have our deposits tab here where you can also send a pay link, not just for invoices, but for deposits, so that you can collect money in advance through PayTrace for any of your sales orders to make sure that the customer is actually going to end up paying you. All right, so in our system here, because everything is integrated and this is touching our inventory, we have our quantity back order field here. So I can see that currently all of these items are in stock, so I don't actually need to cut a purchase order for this. I can just pick, pack, and ship and get the invoice out. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and hit my lightning bolt to process this order. Now, in some cases, when a customer comes to you with a signed purchase order, we have our document management, so I could attach a PO from a customer here. In this case, I'm not actually uploading PO, but I could upload the PO directly to our database so that anybody in any other department that opens this sales order can also see the attached documents. That way, nobody needs to send any emails or, again, reducing interdepartmental friction as much as possible.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and process this sales order here. And I'm going to print an order acknowledgement. Generally speaking, we like to email an order acknowledgement as soon as the order has been processed in our system. That way the customer knows everything is actually going to end up getting shipped to them. So we're going to go ahead and let that process and print my order acknowledgement here. Now, all of our reports come out into a PDF initially, but a lot of them can be exported to Excel or things of that nature. So just know that our standard is PDF, but reports can be exported or handled in really any other manner. Now, after an order has been processed, we still have a chance to add a deposit if we need to. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up that sales order here so we can see exactly what that looks like. Because we saw the initial button there with pay with a credit card, which would, 1, allow me to send them a link, but 2, also allow me to take a credit card over the phone, which we're trying to get away from now with our PayTrace integration. But here, once the order is already processed, we still have our pay links deposit. You can no longer take a credit card over the phone once the order is processed, but you can send your pay link directly to the customer from PayTrace so that you can collect the money directly against the sales order and not have to deal with PCI compliance. You can just click a button and PayTrace handles it.
I,
Once
I
we have our
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to interrupt you. What I really like about this so far, Alex, is how right, natively built into your solution this is.
Mhm.
A lot of other ones that say that they have, integrated payments into their software technology, their ERP, a lot of the times it's taking you out to some sort of kind of third-party overlaid page, and
Right.
sometimes it might sync to the software, sometimes it might not sync to the software, but from everything that you're showing, you're right. I think the word that you used was invasive. This is as uninvasive, I think, as you can possibly make this. This is native, right embedded into your software payment solution. So this is really cool.
Yeah, and the biggest thing was I don't even want sales to think about it. Sales just needs to be
Mhm.
worried about selling and getting the data in here. And
Yep.
it needs to be that easy. If it's not that easy, you're going to miss out on cash collections. It's going to slow up your cash flow. Nobody needs that. And
Exactly.
it did take some proper planning to make sure it wasn't as invasive as any of the other solutions that we had previously tried. But I must say I'm very pleased with how we were able to implement it. And so far, it's been nice and smooth.
Yeah, very simple.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So another key piece here in our software outside of our PayTrace integration is going to be our purchasing tools. So that's really our biggest, I mean, project accounting, design, build, construction is really our wheelhouse. But when it comes to distribution, the key piece that we have is our purchasing algorithm. We have what's called our purchase assistant, which will actually allow you to analyze however many months of usage you would like to. In our standard case, it's going to be 6 months of usage, and we can say how many inventory turns we want to have. So in this case, 12 turns means I want to buy inventory once a month. Our system will calculate your lead times, though, so you can adjust that as necessary based on actual lead times to make sure you're going to have your product to fulfill for your customer. So I'm going to go ahead and just key in a vendor number here. Leave my inventory turns at 12 and my usage months at 6. So it's going to look at my last 6 months worth of sales for this particular vendor. And then I have what's called evaluate stocking status, which takes a look at all of the items from that vendor, how often we're selling it, and tells us, you know what, you're selling this enough, you should keep this on hand. Or you haven't sold this in a while and you were keeping some on hand, maybe we stop keeping this on hand, it's no longer moving. So I'm going to go ahead and hit continue here. And my system's going to go through the last 6 months worth of usage for True, which is a refrigeration company for anyone who's not in food equipment. And it's going to tell me exactly what of their products have actually been moving for me and should be kept in stock. So we
Hmm.
can see here now we have a lot of lead time information here. Oof, that is a bad lead time for an item. I would hate to wait 2,400 days. Sounds like we needed to switch off that item or it was discontinued for some reason. But this screen is going to give you all of the details as it relates to the last 6 months worth of usage and what you should be doing about these items. Now, all of these are just suggestions. We can edit any of the white fields here before we actually update our inventory. But these tools have helped our customers. One in particular was able to grow more than 40% in a year and reduce his standing inventory by $1 million with our purchasing tools. And obviously, he already had the inventory. It's not making him money. It's just putting the money back in his pocket as opposed to leaving it in his warehouse so he can actually use it for operations. So our purchasing algorithms are very, very well tuned and field tested. So here it's going to tell me in this particular item, it's telling me I need to keep 5 on hand. My old minimum quantity was 5. My new is 5. This one here, however, was not marked as a stocked item, but it's telling me I move enough of it that I should at least keep one on hand at all times and that I should be keeping it as a stocked item.
Hmm.
But here I have the ability to mark these as stocked items or unmark them as stocked items as it happens. The system will automatically unmark an item as stocked if the new suggested minimum quantity is 0. So it's always important to go through just in case you have an item that has no usage over the last 6 months, but you know it's a seasonal item. Just computers are great at math, but you still need to know your product and you still need to know your market enough.
Yeah. This is great. This is a very robust kind of inventory management system, Alex. I love kind of the predication of it, being able to actually predict what's needed and what's on hand. We get that question all the time, PayTrace, you guys have inventory management. I'm like, we're primarily payments. This is right. This is fitting a huge need. I love this.
Yeah, and it's one of those. Again, computers are great at math, and fortunately, inventory stocking algorithms have been around since well before I've been alive. So, I mean, my my dad took a more advanced algorithm and kind of pared it back because most people don't really care about carrying costs and some of the other nuances.
Hmm.
This is, it still allows for the manual intervention and it gives you the better number without really overcomplicating it, if that makes sense.
Right.
So in here, I'm going to go ahead and just hit update inventory, and that's just going to update all of my items to set my new minimum quantities as well as my new keep in stock flag. And now I've updated an entire manufacturer based on my actual usage to set my par levels to say, this is what I need to keep on hand. Once that's been done, we have what's called our daily work screen in purchasing. This is going to be a powerhouse because what this is going to do, and I'm going to limit this to just one warehouse because our system can be multi-warehouse, multi-branch, multi-location. And I'm going to hit continue. Now, what that did is it looked at all of my open sales orders that I don't have enough quantity on hand to fulfill, and all of my items' minimum quantity on hand levels, and told me exactly what I need to buy for stocking and for my special order for the customers. So in this particular case, we have two different columns for PO amount and special order amount. And here we can see I have a $219,000 PO, but only 213 of it is special order, which means this is a pretty large stocking PO. And most likely I'm using that to refill my showroom. So not only do you not need to guess what you need to keep on hand, you don't need to guess on when you need to buy it. The system will tell you exactly when you need to get it and what you need to get. So I'm going to go ahead and click a PO generator here so we can see what this looks like. It's going to show me all the items that I need to order from that particular vendor to fulfill my minimum quantities and my sales orders. Now we also have our minimum order and prepaid freight built in here. So if for any reason you are this close to getting your prepaid freight on an order, you no longer have to guess at what item you want to put on there to get your free freight because we have what's called add items close to reorder point. So this looks at your inventory, which is going to be stratified by an ABC code. And it's going to look at all of your A items, which is generally your top 20%. It's going to look at all of your A items and say, okay, what's about to need to be ordered based on our minimum quantities or based on our previous usage. That way, I'm no longer guessing to get my free freight. I'm putting items on there that are actually going to end up moving in the near future. Now, in this case, I did actually meet my free freight, so I can just hit cancel here. But just another example of our purchasing tools and really our inventory management being just at the core of everything. Projects, sales orders, service, point of sale, the inventory is the backbone of it, and our system handles it very well. So we're going to go ahead and generate this purchase order. Now, with our system, we also have built-in emailing. So if I wanted to email my purchase orders directly to the vendor, or if I wanted to email any order acknowledgments or things of that nature directly to a customer, I can. We have what's called our template. So in here, I can choose a template, and it's going to give me the name of my PDF. It's going to give me my subject and the pre-canned message here. So all I have to do is hit run report, and it's going to go ahead and email that purchase order for me as I finish. Again, reducing any friction when it comes to letting the actual manufacturer or vendor know that you are purchasing something. This is just my report letting me know everything's sent correctly. After inventory has been properly managed, and of course with our order, we didn't actually need anything to be purchased, but once inventory has been properly managed and our order is ready to ship, all we have to do, and I have actually forgotten my order number again, so I'm going to quickly look that up here, 12536. Once we have our order's inventory fulfilled, I can actually go into my system and ship the order. Now, we also have delivery routes if you're doing deliveries with your own trucks, but for today's demo, we're just going to do a quick regular shipment. It's going to show me all of the items that are shipping. I have a chance here. Now, if you're using something like UPS World Ship or FedEx, we have integrations for those so that you can actually push the item information over to those shipping systems, and they can give you back the actual shipping charges as well as any sort of markup that you want to have. But in this case, we're just going to leave everything at 0. And I'm going to go ahead and hit my lightning bolt to process this shipment. Yes, to process the shipment. Shipment was processed successfully. In this case, we're not going to print a packing slip because we're not actually packing anything, but we also generate packing slips for your shipping purposes. And in this case, it tried to invoice the order for me, but it did not print the order invoice because I didn't want it to. So essentially, right now, invoice has been created. We didn't see anything, but the customer just got an email with a link to pay that invoice.
That's awesome.
Just that easy. As soon as you marked it as shipped, customer now has the ability to pay you right there. But I mean, let's say the customer decides to give you a check upon delivery. It doesn't matter that we've already put the invoice in PayTrace. If
Mhm.
you mark the invoice as paid in our system, we have a two-way integration. We will mark it as paid inside of PayTrace, so they
Hmm.
won't get any more reminder emails.
Mhm.
So you don't have to worry about, does this customer pay with credit card? Should I really be sending them a link? I say send everybody the link because ultimately, no matter how they pay you, it gets reconciled between the two systems. And to me, it just makes sense to give the customer as many options to give you money as possible.
That's one of the things that we kind of preach is try to meet your customers where they are when it comes to payments, right? Some might still want to send you a physical check, and that's I don't want to say it's okay. It's not okay, but to them it's okay.
Right,
Um,
yeah.
but right, we do want to meet them where they are, and by allowing them to have multiple payment methods on here, especially card, right, which is one of the quickest
Oh,
growing B2B forms of payment that's out there. Um, right, we're reducing those day sales outstanding. You're getting that money in the bank quicker. We're really focusing and making an emphasis on cash flow, which is I love how quick and easy that is on this program.
yeah. And it's one of those, and I hate to say it this way because we weren't sure who we were going with initially, whether it was PayTrace or somebody else. So when I was talking to the development team, I said, "Hey, just make this as seamless as possible, no matter who we go with." I barely want. I mean, I want people to know who we went with because I want them to be confident in the credit card processing.
Right,
But I want it to feel like they didn't actually have to go with some third party. It's just our system.
right.
And you guys have one of the best APIs we've gotten to work with in that regard. And Trace AR is one of the better systems I've gotten the privilege of working with. So I'm very happy about this partnership. Very thankful for you guys getting this set up for us.
I love it. I'm clipping some of these quotes we're gonna use.
All right.
Cool.
So the last thing I want to touch on here, because again, drinking from a fire hose is a lot to the system. I don't want to bore anybody, but with our design build stuff here, we have everything you would need for full on construction. I'm just going to do a quick import. This is mostly food equipment. People would understand this. Auto quotes is a big quoting system for that particular industry. So they handle the actual, here's the items and what is it currently costing based on tariffs and other things that may have come up. So I'm going to go ahead and import a quote from there. But you can also import from Excel or just key in your project manually. But usually it's easier to get a schedule of values from a full quote. So I'm going to go ahead and import this schedule of values here. Now, our system is smart enough to let you know, particularly from quotes, if you're importing a quote that's already been imported. That way you can avoid any duplicates, but it's based on the quote name. So if you're just naming quotes the same thing in your external quoting system or in our quoting system, it's still going to tell you that you've already imported. So I'm going to go ahead and process this here. Bring this in under my customer 1001. Yes. Use the next project number. All right, so we now have a project imported with a schedule of values. And the key thing I want to show you here, and this is also a part of our PayTrace integration, is our AIA billing. For true construction jobs, we have AIA billing, which allows you to easily, with a few clicks, generate your AIA billing as opposed to needing to manage it in some sort of spreadsheet. So here we see our initial schedule of values, and all I have to do is check bill. And if I need a retainage percentage, I can do that here. It'll calculate my retainage automatically for me. And I can click this lightning bolt to create my AIA billing based on my schedule of values and submit it for payment to the general contractor. Now, the beauty of this, and this is something I did not actually expect, but one of my customers corrected me pretty quickly. I said, nobody's going to be paying an AIA billing with a credit card. Some of them are upwards of $500,000. And he stopped me and said, we had a customer try to pay a $500,000 invoice with a credit card, but they hadn't turned on our PayTrace integration yet, and they still haven't. So now they are actively trying to get the PayTrace integration going so that they can take those large payments. So even in the construction world with multi-$100,000 invoices, something that was unbeknownst to me, people are actually paying those with a credit card. So our system will handle that as well, straight through our PayTrace integration. But the big thing is managing your AIA billing continuation sheet is now automated in our system. So if you're a true construction company dealing with a lot of GCs, you no longer have to manage your schedule of values outside of your accounting system. You can do it right in there and then generate your AIA billing and get your money directly through PayTrace's integration. So those are some of the key points inside of our system. Obviously, we have manufacturing, we have point of sale. I wanted to keep it rather condensed for this particular showing, but I'd like to open it up for any questions.
Yeah. No, I will I'll be the first to say, we're just scratching the surface, just seeing all the menus that you had on there. There's a lot this solution can do. So thank you for the demo, Alex, and showing that in there. Team, like Alex said, if you are watching this live one, um, open up that Q&A box. That's how you can get a hold of us. You are muted just to reduce distractions, but please send those in. Just a quick, broad question. For those of us that aren't familiar with the construction industry too much, what is AIA billing?
Yeah, so it's the American Institute of Architects is the acronym there, and it's essentially a standardized billing format for general contractors.
Mhm.
So that usually you have a GC that's managing the entire construction operation, and as opposed to you billing the customer directly, you send an AIA billing in the proper format required by them directly to the contractor so they can evaluate the items that you're saying are on site and let you know whether things have actually been completed and you can actually be paid on those items. So it's just it's an American standard format. So outside of this country, there's going to be other standard formats when it comes to schedule of values billing. But yeah.
Understood. So this is right. You're basically creating a platform for folks that are used to this type of architectural billing. They're not
Mhm.
having to go through a separate program for that. You're able to manage that and provide that all in-house along with the payment side of things.
Yeah, and the biggest thing here with the continuation sheet is really what drives this being actually impressive to the people who understand what an AIA billing is. The column here, D, work from previous, when you're managing it in Excel, you have to do schedules with your billing. You have to move quantities over to different columns for the next AIA billing, and it has to line up with what the previous AIA billing said. And if you accidentally fat finger something or have the wrong formula in your Excel, you end up with schedules of values that don't line up with the previous billing. And you, generally speaking, in construction, you get one chance to submit a bill for the month. You're submitting on the 20th, and if you submit a bill that doesn't have the right information, you're not seeing that money for another 30
Hmm.
days. And you're getting one more chance next month to try to get your money. So it's important that everything ends up in the correct column, and our system manages that with, I mean, extreme ease.
I have a love-hate relationship with Excel. I love it. I love the flexibility of it, but I'm also prone to manual error, to user error. So I like how this takes away some of that risk, if you will.
Yeah.
So another question that came in, Alex, this is from one of our partners, Leslie, and I think I know who you're talking about on this one, Leslie. Leslie has a jewelry manufacturer as one of her clients.
Okay.
Um, without knowing too much about what they're doing, have you run into any similar types of companies that use Sunsoft, or do you think this may be a good fit for them?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So we used to do screen print and embroidery, tanning bed manufacturing, boat trailer manufacturing. I mean, any sort of manufacturing is going to go well in here, particularly because of our bill of materials. So you can say this is one piece of, we have our finished good here, and then here's what all of the components are for that finished good. And the system, when you go to actually make the finished good, will tell you here's what you need. And if you have to create a secondary good in the process of creating the finalized good, we do sub assembly schedules. Sorry, a little bit of a tongue twister there. But it'll tell you essentially what you need to build first to then use as a component to build the final product. So yes, this would actually work very well for jewelry manufacturing, which ironically my mother actually also does jewelry manufacturing. So
I hope she's a user. Um,
she is.
Good, perfect. So, Leslie, we'll definitely get you in contact with the Sunsoft team. Actually, this is perfect timing. Question just came through. I was going to ask you. Um, so when we think about ERPs, right, they're big, massive systems that manage essentially everything from start to finish.
Mhm.
Um, let's talk a little bit about kind of implementation, training, support. If somebody, and I'll give you two scenarios. So the first one, Alex, is somebody's looking to adopt a new ERP. What does kind of that implementation process look like? How do you guys support that?
Well, honestly, the first thing I ask is, do you really want an ERP? Because yes, I make a living selling it, but it's a very aggressive thing to put into your business, and it's
Mhm.
going to put some structure in there that, depending on your size, you may or may not be able to handle. So honestly, the first part of it is that last double check of, are you really sure that this is what's necessary is to meet your goals?
Hmm.
Because if you want to grow and you're at a certain point, your software will hold you back and you do need an ERP.
Hmm.
But if you just want to stay a nice, $2 to $5 million small company, you could probably get away without an ERP and putting in all that structure. Especially, generally speaking, at that kind of size, the owner can keep everything in his head. It's not that difficult. Things can run. There's obviously some hiccups, but yeah, the first part of the implementation is to just double check that they really need it.
Sure.
The second part of that, though, is the data conversion. So I actually have been handling our implementations for the last since 2016. So the data conversion is the hardest part of the entire endeavor.
Hmm.
And until the data is converted, there is no reason to even set a go live date. So the first thing we do is we create what we call a training company, where
Okay.
we import all of your data, and then we have you play around in that and verify that the data is correct during the training process.
Hmm.
Once the data has been validated, then we really seriously sit down and say, okay, who has to do what function? What workflows do we need to create? And what documentation do we already have versus what do we need to create custom for them? I usually like to give at least one set of workflow documentation during an implementation, knowing that the first iteration 12 months from now is going to change, or it should change
Sure.
because things have gotten better. You've gotten more used to the system. But we do the data conversion in the training company. Then we start the training based on what people actually need to do in the system. And then we do a go live. Generally speaking, we can do it in 60 days. It's very uncomfortable for everybody involved. I prefer more, like a 6 month, everyone actually pays attention to what we're doing. Data's been validated. We could do quick turnarounds, but just know that it will be uncomfortable for everybody.
Yeah.
But yeah, our process is a data conversion into a training company, full training, and then go live.
Gotcha. Which, and honestly, it sounds daunting for people that aren't familiar a ton with the ERP space, but that is pretty common. It is a process. It is a bit of a rollout and a work to get where you want to be. But once it is set up, right, it's gonna take a lot off that plate. Um, so that was scenario one. Scenario two, Alex, is to, and you mentioned this before, right? We have customers right now using Sunsoft that you're trying to get on PayTrace. Let's say that they wanted to activate, credit card processing payments through Sunsoft and they're already a user. What does that process look like?
So fortunately, that process is fairly simple from what we've observed thus far. Generally speaking, how it's worked is I've just essentially sent an email to Amy, copying the customer that wants to get into PayTrace, and then you guys' implementation team just gets a few documents of information from them about current credit card processing rates and current volume. And then once they're approved, all they have to do is come in and check a few boxes in my system.
Yeah.
So it's for you guys have made it very smooth for us.
I like the contrast of the implementation for an ERP versus the implementation of payments. It's like, oh man, this one's a little bit heavy. Once you're in there, it's like payments is simple. Well, it's
Yeah,
check
as
the
long as
box.
you can fog a mirror and prove that you have good credit, or
And
usually you'll be fine.
I was gonna say, I'm hoping the people that are using your software are probably pretty much legitimate businesses. So, um, no, that's all good. So, team, I know we're coming up on time here. I appreciate the engagement and the questions. We've got some contact information for us. So if you're an existing, um, Sunsoft user and you're interested in adopting payments, credit card processing, pay links, all that cool stuff that Alex walked through, feel free, go directly to the Sunsoft team. We're also happy to help answer any kind of payments related questions at PayTrace. You can get a hold of us at sales@paytrace.com. If you are interested in learning more about Sunsoft ERP, maybe starting the process, or you have some kind of discovery questions, or see if this might be a good fit for your client, Alex is gracious enough to actually put his own email on here, alexj@sunsofterp.com. Alex, I do want to thank you for your time today. Really appreciate you sharing this and really excited to kick off this partnership and bring this out to the masses.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I did notice because I know Lori Wild joined us for this particular meeting. She is already a customer of mine, and she got to meet your other partners at our user conference
Yeah.
because essentially to kick off the integration, we had you guys come out and speak at our user conference to all of our users. So I'm glad you guys returned the favor here.
I love it. Well, we're not going to pass up an opportunity to get out to Florida. So, uh,
Yeah.
all right, team. If you are watching this on the recording, we'll also put some contact information and some links in the description of this video. Again, Alex, thank you. Everybody here on the live recording, thank you so much for hanging out with us for the last 45 minutes. We hope that you got some value from this and have a fantastic rest of your week. Take care, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.